Yeah, we're doing this. Probably the most unexpected video I've made, but it's a new year, new me. I'm turning a new leaf. So about a year and a half ago, as of making this video at least, I made the controversial Need for Speed ranking video. A video I made when I only had about roughly 500 subs that just exploded out of nowhere, for better or for worse. And there was 3 takes in particular that people didn't really like. Me enjoying Need for Speed Unbound, Need for Speed Pro Street not really being my kind of thing, and my vitriol towards Need for Speed Rivals. And this is the game that I will be talking about today. I am walking on thin ice here today because the last time I really covered an actual racing game, I was severely inexperienced. Some of you may also just be wondering, why of all games am I talking about this one in particular? Because for those that forgot, I hated this game the last time I talked about it, and people were not too happy about it. Seriously, it was kind of funny and sad, the reactions to what my take were, but I have a confession to make. About 2 months ago, I bought a new PC and immediately went to Steam to get games to play on it that were, well, actual games besides like BTD6. And I got all the Need for Speed games that were on Steam because they were all about like $3 to $5. And of all the games that I gave a second chance to was Need for Speed Rivals. I played through both the Racer and Cop campaign till I saw the credits for both of them, and I found myself enjoying it a lot more than I thought I ever could, which feels kind of unbelievable. Hell, it still shocked me that I was enjoying it more. I'd probably move it up to like B tier or something. People will probably still call it a bad take, but you know, I think it's better that I like the game. I think it's better that I enjoy the game than not, which I thought would matter more, but you know, who knows anymore. Going into this game, I wanted to be as neutral as I could be. That was the one problem I reflected on the most when it came to my Need for Speed ranking video. I just kind of went into most of the games with a preconceived notion of how to feel about which game I was playing, based on how I felt about them in the past when I played them when I was younger. Certain games, not so much like Unbound, Heat, High Stakes, and Shift 2, those were just games that I found myself enjoying on its own. But for Rivals, I kind of just knew I hated it when the last time I played it was when it came out 10 years ago. That's not to say I didn't play the game. I did for about 3 hours, maybe just to get some good footage, which I didn't even get. I mean, seriously, some of the clips here are straight up embarrassing. But when it came to that video, I just went into it with the most negative mindset possible. I do not pride myself in being a game critic at all. I would hardly consider me one. I give my critiques, yeah, but I would say I fall more into the AVGN, Scott the Woz types, where the critique is there, but it's mostly for entertainment value. Not saying I'm as good as them, because I know I haven't reached that level yet. But the point is, I am no critic. I don't try to be one. I don't pretend to be one. Now that I put all of the context out there and just set that all aside, let's stop wasting time and just get into the video. Let's begin with the story. Now that we got that done, let's talk about the gameplay. There is cutscenes in this game, and I genuinely don't get why. They really don't add anything to this game at all. I know the game's not trying to go for your typical Need for Speed game where it's like a single player story, you know, even though they're really bad. But yeah, they really add nothing. The opening cutscene for the game, though, is just so corny. And the dialogue that you hear when you select an assignment, it's bad. It's pretty bad. I know this is a negative thing to start off with, but I'm not really holding it against the game. I just wanted to make fun of it for how corny it is, because it's pretty bad. It's like you took Clarence from the original Most Wanted and took the edginess that came with him and just forgot to give him any charisma whatsoever. Don't get me wrong, he didn't have much to begin with, but somehow there's even less charisma here. Trust me, nobody likes Clarence because he's cool. We like this edgelord because he's a bum. For the actual game, one of my biggest gripes with it that kind of prevented me from playing it in recent years was the 30 FPS lock, which was even a thing on PC. I completely understand on consoles, but the fact you gotta change up stuff yourself to get it to 60 is just kind of strange. Apparently Heat is 30 FPS on console as well. I never really noticed it, but I guess fuck Need for Speed Heat. F-tier game, I guess. So of course, I did change things around and got it to run at 60 FPS, and I know it's lame, but I think it really did make me enjoy the game more. It's not the only thing, but it definitely helped me tolerate it more than I had previously, so take that for what you will. Doing this, however, really messes with the game in several ways. Like, it will straight up kick you out of events and just, like, end them for you. Like, apparently it does speed up certain abilities as well as certain pursuit tech, like making them speed up, like the EMP. I'm pretty sure that one goes faster. That's the one I noticed it with. But the only real, like, issue that was really messing with me was in the Racer campaign specifically, I just could not do any of the easy events. Not like the rest of the events weren't easy, but, like, you get what I mean. When booting up the game, there is 2 campaigns to choose from playing as a cop or a racer. In the ranking video, I kind of made it out that the racer was extremely difficult. I don't agree with that still, as when I was playing as a racer this time around, I wasn't struggling at all. Not sure what my deal was in that video. I guess it really was just a skill issue. I will say I feel like I am much better at Need for Speed games now than I was back then in that old video, but really I still don't think it matters because playing it as a cop in this game is still a cakewalk. I was getting gold on every single mission first try, hell even for the racer missions too. Like, what was my problem? Now I will add that I did change the game to be single player, which at the time of that video I had no idea you could just go into the menus and change it, but I guess I missed it. Whoops. I did try to get into an online lobby, and this guy just kind of weirded me out. I didn't like how he was moving. It was unsettling. But I say this because you don't really get the full experience with this game. The only other game to have this kind of online experience was Need for Speed 2015, but that game doesn't have any single-player options. So I'm basing this video off of my experience in solo only, so my experience is most likely different from all the other people that love this game. To reach the credits in both campaigns combined, it took me apparently just under 13 hours, which is about on par with what it says online. The cop campaign probably only took me about 5 hours. It's really not long. When it comes to the handling, I grew to like how this game handles way more than I did previously. In fact, I honestly favor it over certain games that I do like. It's definitely better than Most Wanted 2012. It feels better, at least. It feels arcadey still, with cars also having a bit of weight to them, which is something that, you know, I kind of like. Now let's break down some of my previous takes one by one. The first thing I said right off the bat was the game was unbalanced. Still, I mostly stand by that. The pursuit tech turns this game from Need for Speed to Mario Kart. Don't get me wrong, it's funny to use. It's really funny. Like, you can send people off the map with the shockwave. It's awesome. I don't think all of them are good. But the electrostatic field, shockwave, and EMP are easily the best for the racers, in my opinion. Turbo's okay too, but like, do you really need to use that? What purpose do you have in using that? Some can only be used by one and not the other. Like, the cops can't use turbo boost, though it'd be really funny if they could. Like, don't get me wrong, I actually do like using them just because of the shenanigans that ensues. I just wish that some of them were a bit better, I guess you could say. When I said this right here, I didn't experience the shockwave. All I needed was some shockwave, I guess. Though I will say I did kind of flip on, instead of wanting to nerf the good pursuit tech, to just buffing the weak ones to make it more balanced. That way you could actually use all of them and not feel like you're using something terrible. Now the map. Listen, man, I'm sorry. While it isn't my favorite Need for Speed map in the series, I think I was just hating when I said it was the most boring to look at, or I just completely forgot about the snowy mountain and the forest, because there's still areas here that I find quite boring to look at. It's mostly whatever is in the middle portions of Redview County, but man, that forest at the edge of the map, the snowy mountains, or even the bridge, which is one of the most iconic areas from the game, I actually really like these areas. It also helps that the game is just beautiful to look at graphically. A lot of people actually got on me for not talking about how beautiful that game is. I'm just gonna say it, that's not a good defense for your game. Like, I can tell you, Forza Horizon 4 is a beautiful game. It's not great. Hell, I'd argue this game does look better than the Forza games that came out at the time, but still, playing it in 30 FPS hurts. I don't care how much of a loser nerd I sound like saying that. The desert is actually tolerable for the most part. I actually like the highway part of the map, which is rare to say because everyone knows I don't like desert areas. You can just ask me for my take on the Need for Speed Payback map. This map is also filled with a lot more shortcuts than I remembered, and you can pretty much find one at almost like every turn. And it got to a point where I just kept assuming everything was a shortcut. And then there's this one spot in the desert that I thought was a jump, only to fly off the map and die. I said it was only rivaled by Most Wanted 2012 and Payback for, you know, worst maps. I don't agree with that still, especially after replaying those two games as of recently. It's not as close as I thought it was. This map is really just a bunch of Hot Pursuit locations just slapped together to make one big map, giving it several different biomes, kinda making it look like a Fortnite map. I'm gonna get shot. The next thing I criticized was the car selection, something that is very important in a racing game, as we all know. I understand it really wasn't the best criticism I gave to this game. Hell, I'd say this was as bad as the take on difficulty, but I am still not the biggest fan of it. The cops' car roster is bloated, as there is 3 of each car in this game. In my opinion, that just kind of makes trying to select a car you want tedious, because if you want something that is in the middle of the list, you gotta scroll through the same cars 3 times over. I understand the approach with having a patrol, undercover, and enforcer variant of each car, as this is fine, I don't really care. It's just, make it easier to scroll through, please. There are some cars exclusive to each side, and it ends up being disappointing, but more than anything, confusing. Like the Porsches, for example. The racers have 3 to choose from: a 911 GT3, a 918 Spider, and the Cayman S. Not bad choices at all. You know what the cops got? The Carrera GT. Sure, they got one more, but the Carrera GT. This shouldn't be funny, but I'm losing my mind at the idea of the cops of this county just dropping racks for a bunch of Carrera GTs for no other reason than murdering street racers. The cops also have the Nissan GTR. The racers don't have a single GTR or Nissan. This is the only one available in the game, and you have to be a cop if you want to drive the GTR. You know how mad I am at this? Oh yeah, can't forget the Maserati that was locked behind a service that's been shut down before this decade even began. Yeah, you can use mods to get this on PC, but on console you're shit out of luck. At the very least, I just wish that cars that were available to cops were also available to racers and vice versa. I don't really think that's too much to ask for, or a very bizarre or unfair thing to, ask. But also, can we just talk about how this game presents the Redview County Police? In the cutscenes they have in the dialogue, they just sound like psychopaths. Yes, I'm looking too deep into this because it's really funny. Like, you could be driving down the freeway after a day of work, and then boom, a Ferrari just knocked into your car because a cop just shot him down with an EMP. That's where your tax dollars are going. The customization I'm still not huge on, but it's also like this and considerably worse and lacking in previous Hot Pursuit games, so I guess it's not that big of a deal. Like, if I can deal with it in Hot Pursuit 2010, I guess I can tolerate it here, The last few things I do want to mention, back on the topic of the all-drive feature, genuinely it is a pretty neat idea, and I do think it works for multiplayer, and I'm sure it worked better when the game's population was larger, but I'm still not a fan of how you can't even pause in single player. As I said, you can change it in the settings, and I just find it to be pretty frustrating because sometimes I just need to get up and I want to pause, but no, sure, I get it. The moment you go out there, it's not safe to drive around. Cops can take you down whenever they feel like it, however they feel like it. But I'm in single player. These guys don't have a brain. They can't think for themselves. The progression in this game, it's whatever. You complete a speed list, you rank up, and if you are a cop, you unlock whichever car variant was associated with one of the 3 speed lists that you choose from, which do kind of range just from between a bunch of tedious and boring tasks. It's not most wanted 05 tedious, as you aren't stuck doing more than what makes sense, which is why I think these missions taking only about 13 hours to get done is a positive, if anything. And all the other events are just leftover and can just be you experimenting and playing with friends and all that. And for the racers, you unlock the privilege to buy the car. And you can buy them with speed points, which, wait, the only people watching this are people that already play the game. Why the fuck am I talking about this like you're 5? Anyways, the process of getting speed points is pretty straightforward. Just do things. Of course, you can buy upgrades for your car. In the original video I made, I said it was so simple it hurts. Today, I say it's so simple, just hurts less. Finally, the cops. The AI cops are not nearly as strong as I remembered. I know, I'm the same guy who said Heat's cops were kind of a joke, Maybe not at Heat 4 and 5, but let's get real, I said that way after they were nerfed. Anyways, the Need for Speed Rival Cops, yeah, genuinely, I didn't really have any trouble with them till I reached at least Heat 7, which I know sounds obvious, but I kind of just assumed that the power scaling was like normal from Heats 1 to 5, and then anything above that was just more powerful than what Heat 5 would be in another Need for Speed game. But no, it's just slightly harder and more fun. Maybe this is just to be more fair to people who just want to use a car that comes with level 4 heat, but I don't know. Hell, most people probably won't even believe me when I say this, because I really didn't struggle as much as I probably would have if me back then was actually trying to play this. Now Heat 10, however, it's fun. It's slightly harder than Heat 5 in like Need for Speed Heat or whatever, but I actually found myself loving it, and it makes me wish I could revise the original ranking video just because how fun this was. Honestly, it's the closest to Most Wanted 05's cops. So overall, I was wrong about Need for Speed Rivals. I appreciate this game much more than I had previously, though not perfect, as there are some stuff that I still didn't like about it, but overall I enjoyed it this time around. I do realize how this comes off, however, as some may find it disingenuous or whatever, but no, I do believe what I say in this video, and unfortunately I did believe what I said in that ranking video, even if it was wrong or just a bad take. And this is where I will leave this video off. The next time I will likely talk about this franchise, I will be addressing the ranking video as a whole, and just to update it and correct some mistakes that I found with the video myself, and maybe respond to certain takes, because there is some that I think are kind of crazy today. At least some that I don't really agree with now, and whatever else I plan to do with that. It's not a guaranteed video, especially not anytime soon, however. I'm not going to make a promise like I did with that NFS movie video, because I honestly did not want to make that video at all, and if you watched it, you could tell. But if you guys do want to see it, let me know. Like the video, subscribe, and I'll consider it. And if you enjoyed the video, good. Now goodbye.